Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Fit Mom Society podcast. I have my first in-person guest, and I'm so I'm in a dreamy state of mind right now because this is my dream to have somebody come to my home. We work out or not. We just talk, get in the ice barrel, do the podcast and just talk life and connect. This is my friend Courtney Jones. And I don't know how we have gotten close over the last year or so, but I know a little bit about her, but I want her to tell where she's at in life right now, who she is, background, all that.
Yeah. Well, we're both from the same hometown, so we had that in common. And then I think I just saw you, really killing social media and you do things that show that you understand the game, if you will. And so I was like, oh, someone else that I know that is in social media and just trying to leverage that to just grow as a mom and to help make an impact, because that's where I personally hate social media, but if I'm going to use it, everybody has to use it.
Yeah.
I'm might as well make an impact while we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And so I think I just started commenting on your stuff, trying to help your algorithms and all that. And then we just got to talking, and I think just our shared experiences that we have in common have really driven our friendship over the last year.
It's so wild too, because I will go to Courtney for business advice now. Literally, what do I say in this email? How do I map it out? What am I doing? Because even with that social media, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm figuring it out every day, but I know I'm consistent. That's one thing about me. I'm going to show up every single day. And I love social media. I think it's a lot of fun in different ways. But how would you, I guess, what's that impact look like these days on either social or in your direct community within women specifically?
Yeah. So, the whole reason I ever even got into social media on a larger scale rather than just a private Facebook page with friends and family from high school was I accidentally started a viral teaching movement.
Let's get into that.
Yeah. Okay. So back in 2019, I was a teacher needing supplies for my classroom. I had nothing essentially. Whatever I did have, it came out of my own pocket, which on a teacher's salary is $0. And so I had just gone online and created a private Facebook group, which I thought a couple hundred teachers maybe would join, and we would just share gifts to each other. Because in my mind, it was, if I'm spending money on my classroom, then I could invite other teachers. And if I spend $5 on a book for me, well, why not spend $5 on somebody else? And we just at least are having this nice camaraderie moment.
Yeah.
So it was never supposed to really go anywhere, but within 3 weeks we were trending on Twitter. I had done that whole summer collectively. I did over 185 press interviews, local, national, you name it. They were calling me, and international. I actually did some Canadian media as well that summer. So I had never had a real Instagram. I had never had a Twitter. I had never had anything. And it was
so wild.
Just got thrown into it. And it was I either let this die out in the summer or I just continue to leverage and leverage. And so I was working 20 hours a day, literally just trying to keep it alive, not getting paid any money, didn't get paid any money that summer at all. It was just, how do we get the message out that teachers are spending so much money out of their own pockets? And then one thing I did that was really interesting, I forget which news station it was with, I think the Today Show, but I basically was okay, here's the average teacher salary. Let's eliminate rent or mortgage. Mm-hmm. Let's eliminate groceries and everything that they're spending out of pocket. And it left teachers with $100 at the end of the month. And it was what do you do with that?
But it showed the real life in your face breakdown of the reality of teachers.
Right. Right. And so my heart as a teacher, it was okay, teachers deserve better. Obviously the kids deserve and everything and more. That's the goal. But for me, just having been a teacher, it was the teachers are going to be silent because teachers are givers. Mm-hmm. They are not ones to say, look at all the stuff I'm going through. They're just going to keep going along because it's for the kids. And you always hear that in education. It's for the kids. I'll do it for the kids. Okay, well, we also need to do something for you too. And so that's whenever I just really, everything caught fire. I was working with celebrities, huge organizations very quickly. And so I just had to adapt to that.
Yeah, and figure it out.
Like, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't like social media, still don't like social media, but I understand it as a tool to be able to make an impact.
Yeah.
And so it's like, just having that balance is really good. But yeah, once I started working with bigger name companies and realizing that there's a lot of money out there that can make an impact, that's what really drove me to keep going. And so today, that was 2019. Today, I'm still working with companies every back to school season. I work in the education nonprofit space on a national level. And my day-to-day job, I help teachers have engaging moments with celebrities. I just finished doing some Dallas Cowboy ticket giveaways where I was with the Dallas Cowboy and we would surprise a teacher in her classroom and with her kiddos and stuff. It was really cute. So I did 6 of those. And on the last one, there was a kid in the audience and he said, "Hey, that's so-and-so. This is his position." And he's not like quarterback. It's like a special position. He's a starter, but still it was a different position and he just called it. And so I got to call that kid up and he got to talk. And he was just tripping. He was just all about it. And so it's like those little moments that just continue to drive me to try and make that impact. And just like what you're doing, it's how do I affect change for the better? And how do I impact women? Teachers are predominantly women.
Yeah.
And so if you get into like the statistics of like UTIs and like health issues with teachers, it's just like,
based on
stress and not being able to go to the bathroom because you're so busy. You can't get out. You can't go to class. You can't get out of the classroom. So you have to
Yeah. Well, and that's crazy you say that because this is where I feel like we just like stars aligned with this friendship too, because yes, we're doing kind of the same thing because we have a passion to help others, specifically women. But I have clients, or I did have clients when I was doing one-on-one nutrition coaching that like we would have to manipulate and be creative on the water intake because I'm going to tell you to eat healthy and drink more water, right? And as a nutrition coach and, with Fit Mom Society, but she's like, when can I do that? And when can I go relieve myself? And I'm just like, it opened my eyes. It really did open my eyes. And this is where I think this conversation is important to know that, the listeners too can trickle this into their own life and have this conversation with their buddy, their pal, their coworker, their neighbor, and make change because you saw a problem, a small but big problem, right? And it turned into this huge thing, and I had women coming to me with a problem saying I don't have the time. So I was like, okay, do you have 10 minutes? And now this whole Fit Mom Society concept came about with 10-minute workouts, and it's just like wildfire.
Yeah. And you don't have to solve the biggest problem. And you can't. Like, even with, Clear the List and everything, like, it has made an impact. It's driven awareness, but it will never fix the problem. It's going to take politics and, all of these policy changes and districts changing the way that they funnel money. And so there's so many layers to it. But what you can do is you can at least make your mark on that little spot. You don't have to change the whole world. And in 2019, when it was all popping up, I was like, I just changed the world. This is crazy. Because it feels that way because it was a whirlwind and it was like, okay, things are going to change. And then 2020 came and then 2021 came. And yes, there's still companies making a difference. There's still celebrities who get involved. They shell out millions of dollars a year, but it's still not fixing the problem. But it is making an impact.
So making an impact in the classroom, at least.
Exactly. So you may not fix, you're not going to be able to save everybody. You're not going to be able to fix the whole problem, But if you find your people and your niche, then you can really make your little impact. And that's all you need, you know, just to get enough in there to change, even if you change one person's life.
That makes me, I always try to think on like a granular level too, of that teacher gave this little Johnny his own pencil.
Yeah.
That little pencil
Yeah.
could change the entire trajectory of his schooling, his what he thinks about giving. Like there's so many different things that
with a pencil.
With a pencil.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's funny you say that. So every summer I take part in a social media movement called Post for Pencils. And for every post, hashtag Post for Pencils, there's a company that will donate pencils to the foundation that I work for. And last year we did 200,000 tweets. We were trending on day 30. Like, it was awesome. And I wrote this thing about the power of a pencil. And it was, you're giving somebody a voice. And you're giving an artist the tool to be able to express themselves. But then even beyond that, you have to have a pencil to be able to write. I mean, maybe not anymore. You have iPads. You know, theoretically, you are writing essays, and then you're writing speeches. And then what if you're a speechwriter? What if you're a news reporter? Like, these kids grow up, and there's these ripple effects from just the one pencil or just the one backpack or whatever. You know, it's so simple to make that difference. That's why I always say, like, clear the list is a mindset. It's going to your local school and just saying, what do you need? How can I help? Maybe it's paying off school lunch debt. You know, it's just honoring the fact that there's needs out there and just doing your little part. You don't have to do the whole thing.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, let those expectations kind of, and I'm trying to find ways, like, in real time right now.
Yeah.
Of relating or like making it mesh together of your conversation and mine and how it makes sense to the listener. But like with that concept of at least chipping away at the boulder instead of trying to move the boulder all at once.
Yeah.
You know, and that's with lifestyle change, that's with habits, that's with weight loss, that's all these concepts.
Yeah.
Go hand in hand with everything from A to Z in your life.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's just like a basic life concept, right? Like, it's a framework of mind to say, okay, I have a limited amount of time on the planet. How do I, what are my goals, you know? And I think most people's goals are probably the same. They want to be a good human, be a good parent, be successful, you know, and success, not like a millionaire, but just like have a home, be happy,
happiness,
you know, happiness, and be healthy. And like, that's it. That's like everybody's basic goals. And so if you break those down, no matter what your niche is, if it's real estate, if it's fitness, if it's education, if it's farming, whatever, the tenets are all the same. It's slow down, take a second to figure out what is important for everyone, like collectively, in your circle. Doesn't have to be the whole world. And how do we optimize it? Well, we optimize it with time. So how do we buy ourselves more time or be more efficient with our time, which is what you're great at. You're like, okay, you only need 10 minutes to be healthy, you know? And then, okay, as, you know, as a parent, okay, how do I maximize the time that I have with my kids? Not just in quantity, but in quality. What am I doing with them? Okay, well, I'd rather 20 minutes of dedicated time where I'm one-on-one, looking my kid in the eye, than 2 hours and we're just sitting there and they're on an iPad or they're doing whatever.
Yeah.
And we're not taking care of ourselves, you know? So it's like just identifying what the problem is, whatever that is, in any situation, and just saying, how do I maximize the quality of this time to be healthy, happy? And I'm not big on the word happy. I like fulfilled. Because anybody can be happy in a moment.
Yeah.
I can go buy something on a credit card and I'm happy.
Yeah.
But how do I find that? And it's by being healthy, taking time for myself as a mom, like to say, okay, I have to work out. Like, I have to do 10 minutes. I have to go for a walk. I have to drink the water. I have to do the things, or else everything else is going to suffer. You know,
that's literally what I say every single day. You took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, you have to create sustainability and habits and a long-term situation, or else it's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
And it's going to be this vicious cycle of the same crap. over and over and over. And honestly, where would you encourage or point somebody in the right direction that is like, hey, I do want more, but I don't even know what that means for me. I don't know how to search. I don't know how to reach. Like what would you say to her?
So my question would be more in regards to what, like business time, like what more, or just more fulfillment in general?
More fulfillment, because I do think, and this is maybe more listener / audience specific, but more fulfillment in, instead of aimlessly walking around, going to the 9 to 5, doing the routine, going to bed, going to the 9 to 5, doing the routine, go to bed. How would you encourage somebody to like find what lights their soul on fire or their passion? Yeah. It could be literally business, lifestyle.
Yeah. Okay. So, Logan, actually, my husband told me a long time ago, and I can't remember if his dad told him this or not, which him and his dad were not the closest, so it'd be interesting if that's where it came from. But he said you either work a job that you love and that you just love going to, or you work a job that pays you enough money to live the life you love. And that has framed our entire just perspective on life. On, okay, am I loving what I'm doing right now with my time, whether that's a job, whether that's a hobby, relationship. Yeah. Am I actually in this for me? And like, am I fulfilled? Am I okay with where I'm at? Or is this taking away from that, fulfillment? So I always try to look at things from the perspective of, is this filling my cup or is it emptying it? Is it giving me more time or less time? And my biggest goal in life is maximize the amount of time I have with my family. So it took shifting and getting a remote job. And I worked for myself and still work for myself in a lot of ways. But so it was like finding little ways that just bought me more time. And I took pay cuts at times. I turned down money at times because it was like, nope, that was going to rob me of my time.
Yeah.
So I'm all about living small. And so we were just talking about this before the podcast, that I'm like, me and my family are kind of in this situation of like, okay, we can keep living this very typical American lifestyle of you pay the mortgage and you do this, or can we lose 700 square feet in a house and gain a little bit of land and not have a mortgage by the time we're 40? And it's like, well, that sounds very appetizing.
Yeah.
You sacrifice a little bit, but what would I gain by doing that? Well, I'm going to gain time. I'm going to gain money. I'm going to gain freedom. I'm going to gain travel and experiences. And it's really funny, like this whole last 2 weeks, I've really struggled. I can get really in my head sometimes, like philosophically, and I've struggled really hard with just the idea of purpose. I'm like, what is purpose?
Oh gosh, let's do it.
And it makes me want to throw up.
Oh,
but I've really, in the last 2 weeks, I've really found, I think why it's messed me up so bad in the last 2 weeks is because I've really been thinking about it from a mom's perspective. As a mom, what is my purpose, rather than what is my purpose as a human? It seemed very easy before I was a mom. Like, oh, I'm just going to make a difference, and I'm just going to like work a job, and I'm going to pay mortgage, and like, cool, I'm fine with that. But now as a mom, you're like, okay, wait, what actually matters? Like, to me, it's the home cooked meals, which I've been cooking lately. That's not my thing. I know, it's not my thing, but I've made chicken soup, I've made roast, I've made chicken Alfredo, I made gumbo 2 nights ago. Like,
I don't even know who you are right now.
I know. I literally do not cook ever. And the last 2 weeks I've been doing it because I'm like, okay, wait, this is what matters. What do I remember about my childhood that made a difference? Ignoring all the traumatic stuff.
Yeah.
I think of my grandma's farm, and it was just slow, and it was togetherness, and it was no phones, no connectivity. It was just being together and having a meal. And it was like, okay, that's what I want. I may not be able to have all the chickens in the garden.
Yes.
Yeah. But what I can have is the time together. And maybe that, for me, maybe that's a home cooked meal, and like you just sit out and like watch birds fly in, like that's
it's
a dream.
Magical. It is magical.
It so is. But then, for somebody else, maybe it is like going to work, and like that's your time away, and you need that time to just be fulfilled as a mom. and you come home at the end of the day, and your 5 hours is what your time is. You know, it doesn't. It's all relative to what like feels good for the person.
But you would say like going back to basics.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, or taking the time. I don't think we do this enough, is taking the time to step back and say, what the hell do I actually want?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, instead of the hustle and bustle and the routine and the sports and the job and like all this stuff. I feel like this is where we align so well, is that, you know, I'm going back to a granular level, like with your child, you taught him a recipe this week that he fell in love with, that he wants to do culinary, and he's a freaking Michelin 5-star that's serving whatever, you know, like, but you'll never know until you figure out what you want to provide in lessons and experiences and knowledge and what, you know, whatever, when it comes to being a mom.
Yeah. And I think too, that just in the age of social media, like we're in this very like comparing state of mind as moms. So we're always like looking at the houses and the time and the travel and all these things. And people ask me often, how do you travel so much? We travel so cheap. Like I am the Priceline hunter. I will go on a Tuesday rather than the Wednesday because it saves me $70. And I will spend $500 on a weekend in Colorado when people think it costs thousands. And I'm like, no, it's
just doing it wrong. Exactly. I will teach you my ways, but don't play the comparison game. You know?
Right, exactly. So we're always in this, and I'm guilty of it too. Like I'll look and just say, okay, how did they get there? Do I want to? And a friend of mine had just told me, I guess it's been about a month ago, and I'm totally going to butcher this, but basically it was this parable of like this fisherman, and that's how he provided for his family. He would go out, he'd catch 10 fish every single day, he'd sell them or eat, you know, part of it, and then he would spend the rest of his time of the day with his wife, with his kids, hanging out in his yard. And then this guy comes in, some educated man, I think the parable says he's from Harvard or something, and he says, hey, if you caught 5 more fish a day, then you could buy a boat, and then you could sell your fish, and then you'd make X amount of money, and then, you know, you could create this fishing empire. And the guy's like, okay, but what's the end goal? You know, like, what would I get at the end of the day in 10, 15 years? He's like, well, you might get more time with your family. You might be able to buy a different house. You might be able to hang out and watch the birds and all that. And he's like, yeah, I have that now without the 5 extra fish.
Yeah.
So it's like thinking back, like, okay, how much do I really need? How much am I willing to sacrifice in this rat race of life? And how do I just maximize and buy as much time as possible? So one thing that we have that you can't get more of.
Oh, that's so good, because this is another thing, Courtney. I talk about the comparison game every single day, because in the fitness, health, and wellness space, like, it's easy for women to compare themselves to other women and their closest friend. And they think their closest friend, you know? And I'm just like, there's so much depth in your journey versus mine.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't get it because I've never done it, but like, I know I need to be better of being a little bit more empathetic to the idea of somebody comparing themselves to others. I don't know if it's my personality or like I've always been, you know, a confident person. Yeah. I've done it. I'm like, oh, how are they traveling once a month? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's such a thief. What is the thing? The thief that comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
But it's so true, because you're adding stress, you're adding pressure, you're adding so much anxiety to your already stress-driven life. You know, so why not just stay in your own lane? Easier said than done, but like and I see this too. We might be jumping around, but I see this. I don't have time. I don't have the money.
Yeah.
I don't have time. I don't have the money. And I'm just like, I get that it's tight. I totally get living paycheck to paycheck. I totally get that. But where do you think you can encourage somebody to grab that time back or grab that financial freedom, especially if they're thinking about like being their own boss one day? I feel like this is a good segue.
Absolutely.
Since you are like woman-owned business boss babe type of gal. Like what was, let's go back to where that even started for you, and what would you tell somebody wanting that, or like hearing that inkling of thought?
My first piece of advice would be, it's not as pretty as it looks half the time. It's grunting most of the time. It's a hustle. It's the 20-hour days not getting paid. I think it's just my personality too. Like, I've always been one, I mean, if we're just being real and honest, like, my childhood was amazing in so many ways, from my mom, my grandparents, but it was also very traumatic in a lot of ways. Alcoholism, prison time with my dad, not having a relationship with my dad, financial issues, being homeless at times. And my mom would always say, do as I say, not as I do, as we were watching cars get repoed or things happen in my driveway. And so that always has just driven me of, okay, how do I not, I've never been one to need to make millions or something like that. I don't even need to make hundreds of thousands. I just need to make enough to where I can travel when I want, eat what I want, and live comfortably. Like, those have always been my tenets. And but anytime something like kind of shakes me, I immediately go back to the kid looking for quarters on the ground to put $5 in gas in the car. And so that's where my drive has always gone, of like, you didn't have opportunities as a kid, so now you just find them and you make them. And when one presents itself, or one is kind of right there and you think you have the skills to do it, jump at it. And
This makes sense. Yeah. We literally had a conversation before the podcast started, and I was asking you questions of like, okay, well, how are you acquiring this business and that business?
Yeah.
It totally makes sense now.
Yeah.
And so you think that trauma, those childhood experiences has helped you. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. So, and I'm not afraid to make mistakes or like fail, because I'm always learning. But my whole thing is, you just learn from every situation. I've been in a lot of bad situations. I was in a really bad relationship at one point, and I escaped that and healed from that. And it was like, okay, the day I moved back home, it was like, I'm living now. No more just sitting back and letting life happen to me. So I took ownership over my own life and just said, I'm going to live the life I want. And it's not fancy, but I'd get to travel. Like I said, I travel cheaply, but it's the experiences that mean everything to me. We're very known to, a couple years ago, there were plane tickets on sale for like $25 going round trip to San Francisco. We would only be in San Francisco for like 36 hours. But it was round trip $36. So we packed backpacks. We ended up getting major jet lag, slept literally 16 hours of the time we were there, but we had the best breakfast I've ever had while we were there. And then we went and saw some really cool trees in Muir Woods. And then we flew back home at midnight. Like, we literally got in 9 a.m. on Friday morning, flew out Saturday at midnight.
It's wild.
But like, that is what drives me, is those experiences and just feeling alive. Because for a long time, I didn't get to feel alive. I never got on a plane until I was 18 years old. We've never taken a family vacation once in my whole life.
Yeah.
So it's like all of those little things, that's what shaped me, and experiences being the most important, and maximizing my time.
And driving that concept into your child's brain too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, what does he need in order to be a fulfilled human, and how do I set him up for success in a way that I never was, where I don't want him to have this same drive that I have. And I know that might sound funny, but I don't want him to have to hustle, because it's a fight or flight.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's what all of my life has been, is this just constant fight or flight. And now I've just learned how to channel it. And so it's like, okay, well, I'll just fight and I'll grab this business. And if it works out for a couple of years and I make some money to try to pay off a mortgage or pay off a car, like whatever it is, then I'll do that. And then if it fails in a year or two, then so be it. Oh, well, it served its purpose. What did I learn from it?
Yeah.
And then I just always think, okay, well, then that's going to help me on this next venture or this next venture. But in a dream world, my son's not hustling. He's just living his little comfortable life. Doesn't need anything fancy.
Doing what he loves.
Just doing what he loves, and like can sit outside and read a book and like have just peace.
Yes.
That's something I've
That
had to
is-
find myself.
Yeah,
Peace.
yeah. And it's so, it is the, hold on, I think I'm about to be like a prolific person.
Yeah.
I think it is the easiest, most accessible thing you can have is peace. But why is it so far away?
Yeah.
You know, and we're a Christian family. So if you ask for peace, you've got it. You ask Jesus, please give me some peace. Get rid of my anxiety. You take it all. I can't do it anymore. You know, and we have it in an instant. But we're so easy to not ask for it right then, or not go for it.
Right.
Because we think that we can't have it as easy, I guess. That's where I'm going with that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times we set ourselves up for not having the peace.
Making it harder, not
we make it harder. Yeah, exactly. We had just driven by, it was yesterday, we had just driven by a daycare. It was almost 6:00. There were a lot of kids playing outside. And it just, it hurt my heart because I feel for the parents that have to utilize stuff and have to do that. But then I'm like, okay, what are, and I said this out loud to Logan. I said, what are like 3 ways that somebody could maybe simplify their life where maybe they didn't have to keep their kid in daycare till 6 p.m. And I was like, I bet you half the cars that were driving out of there were like nice cars. And so I'm like, what do you
downgrade?
Maybe you don't need the nice car, I literally rode up to your house today in an 07 Prius. Like, we don't have a car note on it.
Yeah.
I'm down for it. It gets 50 miles to the gallon. That's me saving time, energy, and gaining my freedom back. I mean, we have other cars too, but no car notes. That's my big thing. Like, I don't want a car note, but it's just those little mindset changes. How do I reel this back in and gain control over my life or my health or my fitness or whatever it is? So I'm just big on that balance on, you don't need everything in the whole world. You don't need the nicest car. You don't need the nicest house. You just need peace.
Yeah.
And then you can start to focus on yourself a little bit more mentally. Because until you have peace,
I don't think you can really
you're just
gain
living.
confidence. Yeah. There's also so much noise. There's so much noise and very little clarity.
Yeah.
And if you want to make more money, you want to get more time freedom back, how are you going to do that when you have little to none of clarity?
Yeah, and you have no bandwidth at the end of the day, especially as a mom. Like, I never taught when I was a mom, but I always look at teachers and I'm just like, how y'all make 50,000 decisions a day for 25 kids in your classroom or 150 kids? How do you go home and still make 50,000 decisions when you go home? Like, that can
the job's
so
not
much
done.
anxiety.
Yeah.
And so you're just thinking of like, okay, how do you get rid of that noise? And so for me, that's like, set the phone down. You're just sitting there scrolling. And, if you're thinking, what in the world am I watching right now that's more important than cooking that home cooked meal, like taking the extra 10 minutes? And I'm speaking to the choir. I've eaten out for the last freaking 20 years of my life. Like, not really 20 years, but like for the last probably 5 years, I've eaten out more than I've eaten at home because it's easy and I'm busy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm in the season of life of, okay, well, maybe I don't need to be so busy. Once I had my son, it was like, all right, this is all that matters now.
Yeah.
How do I maximize this?
Well, and you would be shocked. I might have to do some kind of little TED talk on this or something, because you would be shocked at how much that you spend on food and drink in a week.
Yeah.
Not even in a month, like going through your monthly budget, like even in a week, how much you could save by doing a little bit more at home. And not only is it healthier, I mean, this is what I preach every single day, all day, but like, think about what you are putting back into your wallet.
Yeah. Well, we just went, so it was Saturday, I went grocery shopping, I made gumbo, and I invited my grandparents over and my mom and stepdad and youngest brother. And so all of us ate on the gumbo that day, or Sunday, when we actually ate it. And then the following day, which would be yesterday, I had my friend, her husband, and 2 kids come over and ate on it. And I still have half the pot left. And it cost me probably $45 to make the whole pot.
Yeah.
And I was like, Logan, This is what we would have spent at Tia's one night, and I wouldn't have brought home like leftovers.
Oh my
or
god,
anything
easy,
you know?
appetizer and a drink. That's it.
That's
all
it.
you got.
Yeah, and it's $55, and I'm like without the tip and all of that, and so yeah, it was just like those little mind shifts, you know, that has really put in perspective of okay, you just gain one the time because you're not going and sitting at a restaurant, so you're actually at home. I have my son engaged with it. He was wanting to stir the pot.
Oh, there's some powerful learning lessons there.
Yeah.
I love those moments of just like measuring out something for a recipe. Like it gives them so much confidence too that they can pour the milk in the measuring cup. Like those little things are so impactful.
Yeah.
And it's our job.
Yeah.
It is literally our job to pour into them what we want, like our like family dynamic to look like, because we don't want it to look like our childhood.
Yeah.
Like I'll so that we can kind of go into like business type stuff. So that or job stuff, right? Because I think there's a lot of women that just have a job to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that has a time and place, and that losing security and stability can be very frightening.
Yeah.
Like, I totally get that. But I was brought up to have a mentality to go to college, get a stable job that you can work for 50 years and retire from. You know, and it's not uncommon.
Yeah.
But it was one that I did not want to do.
Yeah.
And it was in like medical. I couldn't imagine being in medical these days. Oh my gosh. But like now I am now in the place that I want to be in fitness, health, and wellness, helping other women, busy moms specifically, because I went against the grain.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's a balance, and it depends on somebody's personality. Because there are times where yes, I will jump into a business venture and I will try something new. Never to the point where it'll risk like my family's like security. Like I'm not willing to lose it all, but I'm like, oh yeah, I could spend a couple $1,000s here and maybe I could turn that into something, you know? But I'm just thinking of like the idea of a 9 to 5, and it doesn't have to be like you go into that 9 to 5, right? It could be a remote job. It could be whatever that is. But like not being your own boss is also kind of liberating as well. So you really, I do both. I mean, I work for somebody and I have my own little businesses. And so sometimes those businesses are very hard because you're the one who's responsible for everything at the end of the day. Which is both the blessing and the curse. Right. But you're manifesting your own life. You're creating your own life. And if it helps you live the life you want to live, then go for it. But also there is some simplicity. And it may bring some people peace to just have life happen to them. And yes, you're just going to work to pay the bills and all of that. And maybe that just works, you know, and maybe that's okay. And you just have to maximize the time that you do have with that. Because especially as someone like who's had that traumatic childhood and just like needing the structure, like some people I think just need that structure.
Yeah.
And but business doesn't, it's the same thing with travel. Like acquiring a business doesn't have to mean hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and I think before the podcast, that was my mentality.
Yeah.
I was literally genuine when I asked, like, how did you even do this?
Yeah.
You know?
And it cost me, like, for, I just went into business with Bailey Massey, who she owns a photography company. And
shout out, Bailey.
Yeah, shout out. And she needed help on the back end. So I saw that she had a problem. She was losing and I'm sorry, Bailey, if you don't want me to share this, but she was losing time with her family because she was unorganized and she was ripping and running, going to take pictures everywhere. And she needed just someone to come in and just simplify it and create systems and processes. And so I said, well, let's just marry our two minds. We make a great team. Yeah, great at the photography part. I've not really touched it. I'm learning, but I can help you on the back end. And so we just created a partnership that worked for us. Are we ever going to get rich off of it? Absolutely not. But can we help alleviate some of our bills or some of our debt or some of our
your $25 plane ticket? Like,
seriously,
with a photo session.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And how do we leverage it? So one of our big things now is we're leveraging that. We're leveraging it to do. We do a lot of Airbnb photography. So I just went and stayed in a cabin in Colorado completely for free. I paid cleaning fee, but it was completely for free in exchange for pictures. So that was an experience. I got to stay in a cabin for 4 days in Colorado. My flights were $33 one way, you know? And so, and then we just bought food. We cooked food while we were there. And so it cost us.
But it's being, I think too, it's being bold enough to try.
Oh yeah.
Being bold. And I think this is where I want to grab somebody by the shoulders and just be like, you are so much more than what is happening right now, you know, or, you know, whatever it is. But being bold enough to just say, hey, this might suck and I might not make any money off of it, but was I fulfilled for 6 months? Yes. And did you learn? I mean, I feel like I'm a freaking coder these days because I'm doing all the back end, like Shopify type stuff. Oh my gosh, it's so hard. But everything is like I could do in my sleep, you know? So it's finding some boldness, some confidence. And I'll let you speak to this of like, how do you tap into that? How do you tap into not only the confidence, but if that's there or not, but how to be fearless and fearless. I saw that today and I'm like, I'm using that. Fearless and fearless.
So I think it all comes down to, and I don't mean this in like a jealousy type of way, but in that comparison game. Like when you ask me, how did you even get into those business ventures? We have all of these preconceived ideas of if it's not 100, it's 0. Which is not true. Nothing in life is black or white. Nothing is 0 or 100. Everything is in the middle. So whenever you think about someone and, okay, how did they just go on that Disney World vacation or whatever? Well, maybe they put a lot of it on a credit card and they're going to be paying on debt for that for a long time. You don't see that, you know? A lot of people will say, like, when you see like a Lamborghini or something like driving in Houston or whatever, it's like, oh yeah, they're probably in debt up to their ears.
Yeah, or they could have rented it.
Yeah,
and you just don't know.
And you just, but in your head, you're thinking they figured it out. They made it. Well, no. And so you just have to like scale back all of that, just noise. It's just noise. It's just all of these assumptions. Go in with no assumption. What are your terms that you want to play by, whether in life, in business, in your parenting, whatever? What are the terms that you want to live by? And then live by them. And then worst case scenario, if you fail, try something else. Failure is the biggest, we preach it day in and day out in school. You want to fail. You learn more when you fail. So failing is just the way that you continue to grow. And, so my thing would be, you just have to do it. And I know that just sounds so like YOLO, but like literally YOLO, because life is short. Not only have I gone through all of that, I've shared with you too. When I was 28 weeks pregnant, I ended up with a 2-foot blood clot in my leg. They said the most I would ever do is walk around a grocery store. That I was not hiking mountains. I was not doing all of that. And I was like, okay, well, F that. I will do all of those things.
So at that point, do you just be like, oh, well, I'd rather just die? I mean, that's like very extreme, but like, would I rather just freaking die? But I'm on the most beautiful, yes, it was challenging hike with my family of my life.
Yeah. So I think in that moment when I knew something was majorly wrong. I went into the hospital on a Sunday. I was like, something's wrong. And I said, and I had no idea what a blood clot was. Like, I had no idea of anything. All I knew was that it was not a pulled muscle, which that's what they told me it was, to take a muscle relaxer. It's like, been athletic my whole life, not a muscle. It's not a pulled muscle. It's either a hernia or a blood clot. And I told the doctor that. And they said, well, we'll send you to the ER. I was in labor and delivery. But they had like looked at my leg. There was no redness, no swelling, no nothing. They were like, no, we really think it's pull muscle. I'm like, okay. So they sent me home. Tuesday I was hospitalized and my specialist came in and said, you're lucky to be alive. So when
you would have just listened to me though.
Right. But when they opened the door after they did the ultrasound of my leg and they said, you need to call somebody to come up here with you. She said, it's a blood clot and it's extensive. And I just took a minute. I was there by myself. I'd driven myself there. I walked. Logan still gets so mad at me to this day because there was free valet at the hospital. Refused to use it. Parked my little happy butt in the parking lot. I was like, I am walking into that hospital because you cannot take away my ability to like own my body.
Yeah.
Like I've had other people try to do that to me and I refuse. And so, I walked in and they said, you need to call somebody. And so I called Logan. He was the first person I called. And I was like, you need to come up here. He was at work. And I said, it's really bad. I don't know what it means. I don't know anything about it. But, your baby's okay. And you're okay. You're going to be okay. And this is your prognosis. The medicine that they gave me, my fear at that point was like, how do I know it's not in my head, my lungs? How do I know that I don't have blood clots everywhere else? And they said, well, your medicine will be the same. I'm like, well, that's not very comforting. But they ran all these tests, everything. I'm negative for all of the things.
That's good.
But in that moment, you're like, what is life? And what the heck am I doing? Why am I working my freaking tail off? To do what? To pay for what? To pay for a car? To pay for a house that I don't even get to live in? Is stupid. And so that was really when my brain shifted again, and the universe just told me again, hey,
it's like, Courtney, I'm telling you something.
Just break it down to the simple things. Focus on your health. Focus on your family. You don't get those things back. One day it's all over. And nobody's going to give two craps about the job you had or the business that you failed at.
How much money
or whatever. How much money? Yeah. Were you happy? Were you fulfilled? Did you get as much time with your family as possible? And so that's what I try to maximize everything around. Because it's very scary. And so many people have their own versions of that, whether it's cancer or diabetes or whatever. I mean, they all have,
everyone's got stuff.
There's stuff.
Everyone's got some messy stuff.
Yeah. And so it's like, you have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And that's where that fear less comes from, is you have to educate yourself enough to know that, one, you're going to do the best that you possibly can. And if you fail, then you fail. And that's okay. And then you just keep going. You know? But as long as you don't fail your family or yourself, I think that is what can keep you driven.
That's so good, because I think a lot of the times we get inside of our own head thinking that we have failed ourselves over and over, day to day to day to day. And I'm like, you can start over every single day.
Yeah.
As long as you got breath in your lungs, a beating heart, legs that function, you can think, walk, do all of that. Like, why can't you be healthy?
Right.
You have a brain that can think.
Yep.
Why can't you tap into your skills that you like to do?
Yep.
And why not ask for money to do those skills? You know, and I think we're so scared. I mean, we had this conversation a few weeks ago. I was asked to do a speaking engagement. I was going to straight up do it for free.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know that I could ask for money in exchange for my knowledge, my expertise, my skill set.
Yep.
And I think we give so much of ourselves in a setting, which there was a time and place to give to your friends, your family, whatever. But like at a certain point, can you kind of fit yourself into this space where you can kind of make this a thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to what you said about, we were raised to, you go to school, you go to college, you get the job, you work there till you retire, and then that's when you live, right? And then that's when you start traveling, and that's when you start doing all the things. And we're never taught at a young age, which I think this generation is like picking up on this.
My conversations look completely different than my conversations.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And but now it's like, your knowledge is worth something, your story is worth something, your experiences are worth something. And so, yeah, when you told me that about your speaking engagement, it was like, well, get some money out of it. Like, and I think you had said something like, is it about an hour? Is it about like 30 minutes?
I literally had no idea.
Yeah. And it's like, like, well, just make it up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just literally make it up and say, this is what I know I'm good at talking about. So this is what my topic is going to be. And I'm just going to adapt it to that audience. And then I'm going to shoot a number out. They're either going to love it or hate it. But then they're just going to show me their cards. They're going to say, well, we don't have that. We have this in the budget. Or, oh, that's it. Okay, here. And write the check.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, like, when you start thinking of, okay, my brain is what's worth it, not the amount of time it takes me to complete a task, then that's what really changes that mindset of business or fitness. It's like, okay, I'm in Walmart or I'm in the grocery store and the healthy food is on the shelf just like the crappy food is on the shelf. All right, it's mindset. All right, what am I doing? Am I going to invest in the free stuff, the junky stuff, or am I going to go and shop the perimeter and grab the stuff that's going to make me whole and fulfilled? And so, like I said at the beginning, like it's just breaking it all back down. What makes you the most fulfilled? What gives you the most time? And what makes you the most healthy and happy? And that's it. And then everything else just comes around that. Like you just gotta go for it.
You just gotta go for it.
Ugh. You just gotta go for it.
This was so good. Oh my gosh, we're at 51 minutes. Oh my gosh.
We were talking about like 10 minutes.
It's been 10 seconds for real.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But there was a common theme.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, it is taking a step back. It is tapping into what do you want for your life. And it could be every single aspect.
Yeah.
Literally every single aspect. Fitness, business, money, time, family, relationships. But I also think it's being aware that you might need help too.
Yeah.
We'll kind of get into this and then we can kind of wrap it up. But asking for help, like I think not every person would have been like, hey, Courtney, will you help me look at this email?
Right.
They would have just either ignored it or said, yeah, I'll do it for free.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, I'm the type of person though that I'm going to ask somebody that knows more than me, that it is smarter than me in this type of skill set that I've never tapped into.
Yeah.
I know she's got the answer or some kind of perspective or some kind of trick nugget. Why can't I just ask? And I think there's a lot of people out there that are just scared.
Yeah.
Or intimidated. What would you say to her that is like in that mindset, and how can she get out?
Yeah. I would say put yourself in the room with the people who are doing the things that you want to do, whether that's business, relationships, whatever type of relationship you want in your life. Find a friend, find someone that lives that lifestyle and just learn from them. If it's a business venture, put yourself in that room. Maybe that's sending a DM.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not actually, it doesn't have to be a literal room, but like just start conversations. Hey, how did you get started doing that? Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What would this look like for me? Hey, I see that you created your own course online. How'd you do it? You know, would you share it with me?
Yeah.
And in return, what can I give you? And like, I wouldn't be afraid to barter. Like,
Yeah.
What can I give you? Like, let's help each other out. But just put yourself in that room. I always try to surround myself, and maybe it's not even like people I know. Maybe it's like podcasts, like actually seeking out like information from people that know. Like Logan will make fun of me all day long. He watches like trash TV to fall asleep. I'm watching like a business acquisition 101.
That's like you should like top 5 ways to, you know. And I'm like, I love geeking out over that stuff, but it's a free resource for me to build onto my business in some type of way.
Yeah.
You know, and I think through the sweaty palms, through the heart palpitations, through like literally so much scaredness or fear or whatever, and fear of being judged, like you are the only one standing in your way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are the only one standing in your way. No one else.
And especially in such a fast culture of where, I mean, you literally a minute long video is like hard to sit through these days, which is crazy. Like most people are like, no, that was boring. Flip, flip, flip. They're going to judge you for 0.5 seconds.
Yeah.
And you're going to change your whole life because of the 0.5 second judgment. Like, no, thank you. I will not live by somebody else's standards. If you don't like it, then fine. You're just not for me.
Move on.
Like,
Keep scrolling.
Yeah, keep scrolling.
Yeah, find the people that do want that do want to help you, and you would be surprised on the amount of giving somebody that is secure and confident in what they're doing is willing to help somebody that's trying to start.
Yep.
Because the person that is judging you is not successful. They might be a monetary way successful, but they are not.
They're not fulfilled.
They're not fulfilled. That is the theme.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
This was so good.
Yes.
We need like part 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Because it was so good. Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So
thank
much.
you.
I think this was really a conversation to encourage women to go after something.
Yeah.
And that's it. It doesn't have to mean anything specific. But if there is something that Courtney or I like can help you with, or like questions, there is a way to get in touch with us. But like, where can people find you?
Yeah. That's a great question. Kind of hard. Anywhere on social media, send me a DM, anything like that. And
I'll put the links and the handles and all that stuff.
I'm always willing to like chat. I love talking strategy. I love talking,
and I hate it. That's why I go to you.
I love the strategy part. It's the execution part that I'm like, can I find a partner that will like actually execute? And I'll give you the ideas.
Yeah.
And it's just, find your people, find what matters most to you, whatever that thing is that you're going after. It doesn't have to mean big. It probably should mean smaller. Go after something smaller. Go after something more in your control.
And in your community.
Yeah. Just let's shrink it back down. And, I do it and
just
fail. And if you fail, then okay, then we'll find something.
We will cheer you on if you fail.
I fail every day.
Yes.
Fail every day. And I just keep going and just keep going. And then one day, who knows? I'll probably shut it all down and like
just like, screw it. I'm gonna have the chicken in the middle of the mountains and be like, don't ever have to do this.
Yes. Just go for it. It's nothing to lose.
I love it. The words, the nuggets, the inspiration this was a literal goal.
I love it.
Thank you.
All right.
Cut.